So I think in this community, we are really good at finding answers, creative answers to our own problems. So we have repurposed existing funding, and I think that's something that's really unique in our community. It's the ability to look at what we need and what we've got and repurpose what we already have, not be going with our hands out for more because we don't have what we need. So local government, the Community Health Service and Department of Health and Human Services, we've pulled some funding there and resources, in-kind resources, to be able to make Hands Up Mallee happen.
I think what I'm most proud of seeing happen since joining this is seeing community come together, whether you work in the service area or business or community. It's a love of your community. It's wanting to see us do better, and that coming from all levels. People, several degrees, to people who didn't finish high school, all together in a room, trying to work for the better of the community. That to me is the best of us.
An example of working collaboratively and working differently for us, we've probably had two really good examples at a project level recently. Late night basketball, where that idea came from youth in community who said they wanted something to do on a Friday night, and instead of agencies saying, no, we can't do that, no, we don't work then, no, that would never work, agencies got behind youth in community in a really different way. And I think that's the big part of doing things differently, is reimagining your relationship with community from an agency perspective. And I don't think this work can happen without agencies, and it can't happen without community. It needs to happen with both of them, but with both of them working in really different ways and working alongside each other. I think that power dynamic really shifts. So that was probably a really good example, tangible example for us on the ground recently. The other one would be Home Base, which again was an idea that came from youth in community who said they needed a safe space to go to, and how were we going to support them to do that? And an agency getting behind an idea that's come from community, not controlling it, but walking alongside community to make it happen.
Homebase is a youth platform run by youth, so it's for kids to come and hang out and have some dinner, do some activities, learn some life skills, instead of being out on the street causing havoc.
So we have like other organisations involved, like Sunraysia Community Health and Hands Up Mallee and that, but like they oversee it kind of thing. Like they don't really run it or anything. They guide us on what decisions to make or on how to go about things. So when we started up, it was just Lani, me and Chloe. So we would do everything, and then we'd go to like Mark or Simone or someone and be like, look, can we do this? And they're like, yeah, but we'd have to go around it this way, so that way we're covered and can get the funding and stuff like that. So it is run for, like, the kids do run it. Like, I think I'm the oldest out of the three of us, and I'm 23. So we like run it and everything like that, but then we have older people from organisation side of things to guide us in the right direction on how to do it, so that way we aren't getting tired or stuff something up and get it completely wrong.
So the Midnight Basketball was another brilliant idea brought up by local youth connected to the Home Base initiative. Hands Up Mallee was keen to support and find a place where we could work together and make this a reality.
Midnight Basketball and my involvement came about because twofold. My love for basketball, and I've played basketball and been involved in basketball locally for a long time, and also to do with young people having access to positive rec and leisure activities. The young people have to be home by midnight, so that's the idea of the program, is that they rock up usually between 6:30 and 7. We give them something to eat, we talk about the rules and what's expected of the young people, and then we have workshops, and then they get into some round robin games against other young people, and then they're transported home via bus before midnight, so in bed by midnight. Certainly we've always had really strong relationships. Being a really small rural town, we have to rely on that positive collaboration, but I think it's been strengthened definitely by what we've seen at Midnight Basketball, and I think the positive outcomes that the community has benefited from what Midnight Basketball was able to achieve, and the young people. The feedback from the young people is that they loved it, and they can't have the second round happen quick enough, and they're also willing to be leaders for the next round if we continue with that as well. I think that the young people really felt that there was no barriers to their involvement. So you didn't have to know how to play basketball, you didn't have to know how to shoot a goal or dribble the ball. You could just turn up and be involved. There was no criteria around it. I think in young people's worlds, there's always, excuse me, criteria and there's always expectations, there's always rules. And while we did have rules, they were rules made up by the young people. So we didn't have adults telling young people what they had to do. It was young people telling other young people what their expectations and the boundaries were. And then I think it was just about them actually enjoying themselves. So regardless of what was going on for them at home or in their school environment or with their friends and their peers, that they were actually just able to come for a couple of hours, enjoy that social connection, talk to other people, understand what was going on in the community, and really just have a good time playing basketball.
Hands Up Mallee was involved in the initial phase of Generations Music Together. We saw the value in the program in supporting our community, and we're really keen to support a trial of this. We work not on our own, but with a whole range of different organisations in making Generations Music Together a success.
Hands Up Mallee are fantastic because they're so responsive, an amazingly responsive team who are absolutely passionate about making a difference to people in our community and helping people connect and helping people overcome disadvantage. Because we've had such a great trusting relationship, we've really been able to just wrestle out what needs to happen to make this really as powerful as it can be and to be sustainable and to be accessible to people that may not have money, transport, confidence. And so it's been absolutely fantastic. So I could have just decided as a business just to run Generations program at Chafee Aged Care and have it open for enrolment and just run a really nice program. But the relationship with Hands Up Mallee means that it's really able to penetrate right into where I believe it needs to be, and that I've got the confidence that we've got years and years to really make it work, because we're always playing around with the form and how to get people into it and how to make people feel comfortable once they're there. And again, because of that, the responsiveness of the Hands Up Mallee team and their flexibility and their absolute commitment to place-based change, we're able to have really frank conversations about what's working, what's not working, and actually really deal with it rather than having to deal with layers and layers of bureaucracy. We actually just can really get to the point and say, this bit's not working, how can we fix it, what can we do to make it better? And so that's why, because it's not easy work, but it's unbelievably rewarding.
I think as an initiative, in terms of looking at enabling, you really need to be willing to listen to what your community wants and then to take the next step and to be speaking to funders and to government about what that is. Communities receive a lot of funding for things they don't need funding for, and I think it's up to communities to be having those conversations with funders, particularly government funders, and I think often government are really open to communities using funding differently if there's good reasoning behind it. I think often communities aren't brave enough to have those conversations, or it's just easier to stay and do things the way you've always done them. But the challenge is, I think, to be brave enough to have those conversations, and usually they pay off.
The changes that I've seen in the service area is that everybody's more willing to work together. So it's a very siloed approach to services, and they're realising now it's not working. So you might have someone who has 4 different case managers, but they're all working independently. Nobody takes into account what the other one's doing. So now it's more of a collaboration. So that person is actually getting a holistic outcome. Their whole being is being taken into consideration. And there's a lot of groups that have formed, early childhood development groups have sprung up, housing and squalor groups, and to try and come together and overcome some of these issues that we have in our community.
By listening to the community conversations and by listening to the outcomes and knowing our statistics that we have here in town, we have been able to very cleverly work as a team alongside Hands Up Mallee to listen to what our community is saying and to be able to deliver on the other side. And so the Sunraysia Community Health have then invited other service providers into their space to work with them to be able to give back to the community what they want. And so that's by having a seamless sort of approach to pregnancy and all the way through to 2 years. We're not isolated silos as an antenatal care provider, as a birthing support service, or as a postnatal care provider and a maternal and child health service. We're one seamless provision of service from conception all the way through to 2 years. What I think something that's I've really noticed is that a lot of services have a lot of limitations to what they can and they can't do. That's due to time, it's due to criteria, it's due to funding streams. And so we've been able to work together to find out who actually has something that others might not have, and all together just focusing on the bigger outcome of looking after the families and the children in our community. I think our silos are breaking down and that we are working well as service providers in the community and looking at collectively being able to provide back to our community in a way that we know that they want. So just recently, Sunraysia Community Health have been able to provide a one-stop shop, a place where all of child health and information services will be provided under one roof. This is a direct answer to the questions and to the needs of our community. So through Hands Up Mallee and our community conversations, we know that our community want our child health and information under one roof and all working together. And so really exciting is that we will be doing that in November. And so Hands Up Mallee have been able to bring everyone together, improve those relationships under one roof, and yes, I think it will go on for a long time to come.
We want to see things happen, but they have to happen in a context that's going to address the problems that we face. And how do we use that to make a difference? So there's been a lot of projects, like in recent times there's been the midnight basketball and there's been home base, which are generating involvement from the community, but also focusing that on solving that problem of the level of youth engagement, and how does that, from a community perspective, what does success look like? And so getting them to shape that. But I think it's a very much a long game. So you build on those wins to actually then make those projects, if you like, become more a system change approach. And that's the challenge. The challenge is changing the system, not just having a programmatic response to the problems, because we can do that. Service providers, that's what the sectors can do. But how do you engage community in helping share that problem so they can play a role as well, and then using that to take it to a next level? That's where I think the challenge is. So we're not just having the same programmatic response, but we're having a response where there is community momentum behind system change